Hello everyone, Coach Carol here. Today I'm exploring how Chat GPT-4 can help me in understanding how I can use it in conjunction with DALL-E 3 to get the right images to illustrate my ancestral stories. So you'll see I'm over here in my account and I've given it a first prompt. I'm asking for directions and instructions about creating images using DALL-E 3. And I put in my own brief descriptions of steps 1 through to 4. And it came up with a detailed and self-explanatory guide for creating images, calling it the Guide to Creating Images for Ancestral Storytelling with GPT-4 and DALL-E 3. I wonder where it got 2 from. Not sure about that. However, it's DALL-E 3 that we're using. The first step is to initialize the AI systems, and that's important. So you need to switch to GPT-4 and make sure that DALL-E 3 is selected as your image creation tool. So to do that, let me show you how that's done. So in your new chat, you make sure that GPT-4 is activated, like so, and DALL-E 3 activated at the bottom here. That should look the same for you if you have a subscription to GPT-4. And then within your prompt area, you'll add your prompt. But let's go back to the instructions and find out more about the prompts themselves. It seems to always go to the bottom. Never mind, we'll scroll back to the top here. Step 2 is to compose a detailed image prompt. So you craft this descriptive prompt with suggested information such as the subject matter, whether it be a family crest, a vintage photograph, or period clothing, the desired style and tone. So will it be sepia tone for an old world feel, or vibrant colours for a family celebration, or muted tones, or black and white? Specific historical era or cultural background. Could it be 19th century rural Australia or Edwardian England? And that would set the tone for the dress style for characters you want in your image. And it is important to give it as much information as you possibly can. And this will enable DALL-E 3 to get closer to the resulting image to align with your ancestral narrative. So a detailed image prompt. Let me show you one of those. You have one of these below. Create a digital watercolour painting of an early 20th century farmhouse in rural Australia with a family gathered on the porch wearing period appropriate attire, exuding a sense of hope as storm clouds gather and rain is imminent in their sun-scorched land. So quite a bit of detail in there, and it came up with these 2 different looking images. The one on the right seems more in tune with my original vision, where people are expecting the rain to relieve them from the drought. The one on the left doesn't quite meet my requirements, and the style of dress doesn't seem right either. So you can then take it a step further and ask it to vary what it has given you in its first response. And here's what I did. I've said that I prefer image 2, which is that one. It recognizes that as image 2, with the style and placement of individuals. But I'd like you to repaint it in more somber colors, keeping the style of the house with porch and iron roofing, along with the attic window. And I could have added even more details, but here is what it came up with, which is more to what I was expecting, more like what I had in my mind with a typical ironclad roof of a rural Australian homestead in a sun-scorched land, waiting for the rain. So coming back to the instructions, let's pause here while I do that. Step 3 suggests that you submit your prompt with creation keywords. For example, you submit it by using action verbs such as sketch, paint, draw, or create. And these keywords signal the type of artwork you are requesting, whether it's a pencil sketch or a full colour painting. Now you can also specify whether that painting may be in watercolour style. And step 4, provide detailed specifications. So you can add any specific elements that you wish to include, such as particular items of clothing or jewellery that are significant to your family's history, or landmarks or buildings relevant to your ancestors' life story, or facial features or expressions that capture the essence of the story you're telling. And here is where it gave me the examples of prompts that I might want to use, and we've had a look at that first one in action. I tried the one of the vintage map and didn't like the results. I'll show you why in a moment. And then I tried the one called Paint a Lively Scene of the 1920s, and I took that a step further. So let's have a look at what it did with the next one. I'll scroll down and show you that one. This vintage map really looks a bit odd. In the first one, it did give the ships as an example in there as a traditional travel mode, but it also has an aeroplane. And if this is the 1800s, that's not quite right. The spelling of the words are also a little odd in this one. The second one was closer to what I had in my mind, with typical routes from Europe through to the Americas, with the ships shown as requested. But once again, the spelling of the words is a little odd. So it doesn't do really well with things that have words on it, unless you are super, super keen to ensure that the lettering is right. You might have several iterations to get it just right. So I moved on from that to try the next one, which was to paint a lively scene of the 1920s family reunion in an English suburban garden, with individuals in flapper dresses and suits and capturing the joyous atmosphere of the end of World War I. This is the first set of images that it provided. And it looks more like something that you'd see in a 1950s magazine. And it was a bit too bright and a bit too twee for me. So I asked it to tone it down a little bit by adjusting my prompt. So like this, I've told it that I prefer image 1, which is this one above. However, can you repaint in subdued colours in a watercolour photographic style? And the result suited my vision much better. I particularly like this one. It had a particular appeal for me. And it does describe what it's done in getting as close to your prompt as possible. It now says that the updated images reflect the scene with subdued colours in watercolour photographic style, providing a tranquil and vintage ambience to the 1920s family reunion. All good so far. And of course, you can then download the images that you want by clicking on the arrow in the top left corner, which allows it to download to your system. Having done that for each of the images that you want, then you can place them within your story illustrations as required. Then I was thinking of how to go with creating a family crest, something else that was suggested in the instructions above. So I have now requested one. Please sketch a family crest for an English family with a Celtic theme. Use muted colours and mount the crest on a plaque. And the family motto is Familia Supra Omnia, meaning family is everything. This is what it came up with. I quite like the one on the left. It certainly has that Celtic design within the shield, but the words are not quite right and duplicated for some reason. The one on the right was a little bit too flamboyant and the spelling just was not correct at all. So I asked for further renditions and suggesting that they use image 1, but make sure you spell the motto correctly. And I put it in again here. It still had trouble with it, but it was a nicer looking diagram, and I went with this one. It's not quite the right spelling, but it was close enough to my needs. And once again, I downloaded that and stored it ready to illustrate my story. There's so much that you can do in using the combination of Chat GPT 4 and DALL-E 3. I hope you've enjoyed this brief look at the ways in which you can generate a variety of images using those 2 AI tools. I'll be back with more of these little tutorials that help spark an interest for you in using your AI tools to illustrate your family history stories.